Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Best Travel Stories. I'm so grateful to have you all tonight here. We are going to have fun and enjoy the presentation of Marek. Before we start, as usual, I want to summarize shortly what you can expect of this evening. So, we are going to start with our special speaker, Marek, and he is going to speak about Japan. After that, we will have opportunity to introduce ourselves and ask questions if it is needed. And you can give tips for better traveling and tell why you joined this group. The last part of our meeting will be to share your past or future travel stories. And we will end this meeting with one sentence feedback. So, Marek, thank you for taking time and preparing Japan for us. I'm appreciating what you are doing. Could you please introduce yourself for all?
Okay, hi, I'm Marek. I'm British. I live in Berlin. I've lived in Germany now for almost 20 years. And today I'll speak about Japan. The reason why I chose Japan is because a few people have already mentioned in the past Japan as a future travel destination. So I thought at least I could share some of my experiences. I've been out there once on vacation, but I've been out there 10 times on business. And when I've gone out there on business, I've always tried to link it with 1 or 2 days extra privately at the end. So at least I'll try and give you some of my thoughts, my recommendations and suggestions about Japan. So I shall bring up, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so first of all, just Japan. One thing I mentioned about Japan is, I think I might have put it on the next, is that moving? I'll see if it can move down. Okay, so Japan, I'm actually going back, maybe this one. It's a very big country. It's easy to forget. It's 3,000 kilometers long. So it really goes up from the level of Siberia down to the tropics in Okinawa. It's also 126 million people. So it is a very big country. And what I'm just going to focus on the area that I know, which is really between Tokyo, Kyoto, and that central area. So although it's quite a small part of the total country, it's probably also where the biggest part of the population lives. And probably also where I guess most tourists start out, even if they go beyond. So first of all, let's speak about Tokyo. Now, I mean, one thing about Tokyo is it's a huge place. It's 37.4 million people live in Greater Tokyo. So it's, from what I've read, the most populous metropolitan area in the world. So it really is a huge city. And the best way almost to imagine it, particularly for those who live in Berlin, is it's like loads of, almost like the equivalent of Kiez, loads of sub-cities, but these cities are, each one could be a city in their own right. Also good to understand Tokyo is a little bit of its history. It really is quite a new city because before 1603, it was really quite an irrelevant small village. And then at the end of the civil wars, the Tokugawa family became shoguns, which is like military dictators. So they had the emperor, but the emperor was symbolic and had no power. And the shoguns ruled, and they established their capital in Tokyo, calling it Edo at the time. And it grew incredibly fast. So it was actually the biggest city in the world about 100 years after being created as the capital. Also, Japan, from 1603, was essentially isolated from the rest of the world. So the shoguns only allowed, of all the European nations, only the Dutch were allowed to go there. And they're only allowed to go to an island in the middle of Nagasaki Bay. And the Chinese were only allowed to go to an island called Tsushima. And apart from that, no one was allowed to enter the country. But in 1853, the Americans arrived there. In a way, they forced the Japanese to open up, which caused a bit of a constitutional crisis. And the result was that in 1867, the shogunate was overthrown. And the emperors who were living in Kyoto were brought to Tokyo, which was Edo, was renamed as Tokyo, and actually they started ruling the country. And Japan went into a massive industrialization, westernization phase because they were worried if they didn't, they would be colonized. And so really within about 30, 40 years, they became a major military power and they shocked everybody when they defeated the Russians in the Russo-Japanese War. The other thing is really important about Tokyo, it's been destroyed quite a few times by fires because it was made out of wood. So that in 1923, they had this huge earthquake, which is best compared to the Fukushima earthquake. So it was an earthquake followed by a tsunami, which washed away Tokyo. And then it was again destroyed in fire bombings in 1945. But it's really been rebuilt. So it's the photos I've got here is just to give an idea of the size of it. The middle one, you may just be able to see on the horizon, there is Mount Fuji. So on a very clear day, you can see Mount Fuji from Tokyo, but I've only ever seen it once in all the times I've been there. So I was quite surprised when I saw it. So yeah, that's a little about just Tokyo. It is a huge place, but it's one of the most exciting cities I know in the world. It's like compared with New York and London and Paris. So I love it. So in a way, the best way to explain Tokyo is just looking at the various different districts. So this is a map of it. And in the middle, you have the Imperial Palace. So that's really where the shoguns created a palace, and now it's the Imperial Palace. Most of it's out of bounds, but you can visit Eastern Gardens. I'm just on a photo of what the gardens are like, and they're quite pretty. It's also, for anyone who's there and likes running, it's the best jogging route. You can actually go, there's a jogging route all around the palace. So it is the best jogging route if you like sport. As I said, the easiest way to think of Tokyo is a lot of sub-cities and districts like Berlin-Kiez's, but just on a complete different scale. So I call it on steroids. It's also one thing, so it's probably just worth mentioning. Tokyo is quite complicated because it doesn't have street names, with a few exceptions. Everything is just has these weird addresses, like I put an example here, where they just do it by blocks. So it means that the houses on one side of a street will have a completely different street, set of addresses from the ones on the other side of a block, because it will be looking, at street, because they'll be looking at the blocks. So Google Maps is the best way to get around, because street names are no use whatsoever. Going around the different districts, I just picked out some of my favorite districts. So Asakusa, which is north, was the first place I visited. So first time I went to Japan, I was on there on business. I arrived on Sunday, so I said, where do I go? Let's go and see a Japanese temple. So I went to Asakusa, which is probably the best, most interesting temple in Tokyo. It's a huge complex with pagodas. It has this shopping street full of souvenir stalls, but it's quite a nice place. So it's a good place to start and to get a feeling at least of what old Tokyo may have looked like. Down from there, sort of did it in a circular pattern. Ueno is a great place to get away. I mean, it's a huge park, but in the park you have temples. You've got a temple in the middle of a lotus pond. You've got Tokyo Zoo with the pandas. You've got pretty much about 10 different national museums there. So if you like museums, you could just spend a week in Ueno. And it also still has a few of the surviving old wooden houses. So it's kind of like a museum, like this one's an old sake distillery, but that's quite a nice part of town. Going further in, Ginza is probably, for those who are in Berlin, probably like Kudamm or Friedrichsthal, but just again, on a completely different scale. It's where all the big shops are. Things that I would really recommend there is the department stores. They have incredible food departments, and it's just like you go there, and I still haven't figured out what half the food in there is, but you can just walk around. It's a great place for buying gifts as well, but it's just fascinating to go around there. It has the railway station. It's probably one of the few surviving what I call Meiji, so early imperial buildings, which gives an idea. But also it's, once you get away from the main shopping street, it's a really interesting area. So there's like, one of my favorite places is the oldest cafe in Tokyo is the Ombra, which is like from 1947. And this Japanese guy, he was getting coffee from the American Army when they were there. And it's still basically, the decor has not changed since 1947. Put in one tip I just put in there is, if you do any shopping in Japan, it's really worth remembering that maybe spend about 50 euros or more, you can get the tax back. So it's worth going and shopping, just reclaiming the tax. It'll save you about 10-15% on your shopping. So Roppongi is another district. I think one of the interesting things there is this building, it's Orange Tower, which is like a mini Eiffel Tower, although it's actually still, it's about 350 meters tall. So it's the second tallest building in Japan. You can go up it and it actually gives you really good views of Tokyo from there. It's quite fun to go up. The tallest building is also in Tokyo, but it's a little bit out of town called Sky Tower, which I think is the tallest building in Asia, but I've never been there, so I've not mentioned it here. And Roppongi is a mixture. It has this very modern area of office buildings, but also shops. And interesting, there's quite a few museums. A lot of the Japanese companies have their own museums with artworks and things, and 2 of them are in these office buildings. But as you go down, Roppongi Crossing is, I would say, one of the wilder nightlife areas in Tokyo. And then there's also a National Arts Center, which is a fantastic building, and they do really, really good art exhibitions. I went there to actually see a Renoir exhibition, so it's like strange to go all the way to Japan to see French art, but it's again gives an idea of what Roppongi is like. Shibuya is probably my favorite part. It's where I tend to try and stay if I can. And what's famous for is this pedestrian crossing, which is in the photo on the top. It's the busiest pedestrian crossing in the world. And it says that sometimes when lights change, 3,000 people cross this pedestrian crossing in one time. And the amazing thing when you watch people is nobody bumps into anybody else. They glide across it. So there's a video, I've actually included a video link on there. I might actually just copy it in. It's amazing just to watch the video. There's this dog, which is a whole long story about this dog, but it's this faithful dog, and it's one of the favorite statues for people in Tokyo, and it's a favorite meeting place. But Shibuya is just also gaming arcades. It's fascinating to go in and watch the Japanese, but they're really into their games. So I have these pachinko parlors where they all sit there with ball bearings, throwing them into machines. And a shop that I would recommend there is Tokyo Hands. I was putting this great place where you never know you wanted. It's like if you want chopsticks, they have it there. If you want Japanese Christmas cards, they have it there. It's just a crazy shop, but all these things you never know existed. So Shibuya is great fun. Harajuku is the next area up, and again, it's very varied. It's a bit quieter than Shibuya. I mean, I'll say Shibuya is lively. It's 24/7 type place. But Harajuku, one thing is, on one side it has one of the smartest with all the design shops, but parallel to it, there's this Takashika Street, which is where all the teens and preteens go. It's just absolutely, probably if you're over 18, you feel old on this street, but it's just amazing walking down there and just the designs. There's also one of the nicest parks is in Harajuku, which in the middle of that is the shrine where the first emperor, or modern emperor, is buried. There's also a couple of really good museums in Harajuku. One of them is I put down here. It's a very small modern building with Japanese art, but behind it has its own sort of Japanese garden. I think it's the nicest Japanese garden in Tokyo, with various tea houses. And then there's another museum, which I mentioned, Noto Memorial, where if you like Japanese woodblock prints and artists like Hiroshiki, and Hokusai, they have very small but very high quality exhibitions there. So Harajuku is a mix of shopping, culture, and also has, I would say it's a bit like Prenzlauer Berg, very, very hipstery back streets with loads of little cafes like this one, which I put there. Then other districts, I mean, there's just, as I said, so many districts we're going to talk about. Each one has its own character. So there's Shinjuku, which is the top 2 photos, and it has the busiest railway station in the world. So again, it's apparently 3.6 million people go through this railway station every day. But you walk out one side of the railway station and it's all these office buildings, and you can go up this building, which is the city headquarters. And from there, it's probably meant to be the best place to see Mount Fuji if you want to see it. But when I was there, it was cloudy. And if you go out the other side, there is this complete bar quarter, which has about 300 bars next to one another. Each one has a completely different character. If you're into anime and mangas, there's this whole part of town called Akihabara, which is just literally supermarkets with mangas and anime figurines and things like this, and it's very, very colorful. You can also, if that's too noisy, then Shimokizawa, which is the photo on the bottom right, is this very laid back, I would sort of compare it to Kreuzberg, but it's how you get vintage shops, it's all cycle paths and things like this. It's very, very nice. And then there's Meguro, which is with the canals, and we have some of the best cherry blossoms. Other sites, not in any of those areas, but three that might be also interesting. There's the Edo Toki Museum, which is the History of Tokyo Museum, but they've rebuilt all these old buildings full scale there, and it's so it's quite fun. There's the Digital Art Museum, which is these two photos, and it's an interactive digital art museum. It's just, I put it there, it's great for kids, whether you're 6 years old or 66 years old. It's just super fun going around there. And then another one is Yayo Kusama, who is this Japanese artist. She's probably one of the most famous Japanese artists. She's known for her polka dots. There's a museum of hers. We're saying that with quite a few of these, you have to buy tickets online in advance to go there. Practicalities, transport. There's two airports in Tokyo. One of them, Narita, is a long way out. So if you take the taxi, it would cost you about 250 euros. So don't take the taxi. You can take a train, but it requires about 3 stops. So if you've just got a long distance international flight and your first time in Japan, it's possibly not the best thing to test yourself on. But there are these, what they call hotel buses, but basically they just drop you off at all sorts of different hotels. And as long as you know where you're going and it's near one of the hotels, then it's the best way to get into town. The Tokyo subway is excellent. It's people literally, it tells you not how many minutes arriving at, it tells you how many seconds it's arriving at, and it arrives on time. But it can get very, very busy. I suggest anyone gets these Passmo cards, which is like a sort of pre-built electric card. Apparently it also works in Kyoto on transport, but it just means you don't have to keep buying new tickets all the time. You can just top it up at the machines. And then if you're going outside Tokyo, then I would recommend everyone has to at least once try the bullet trains, the Shinkansens. They are just really, I mean, just so fast and so comfortable, but they are also quite expensive. And there are these JR rail passes. If you're going to be doing a lot of train travel, I think you have to buy those though before you go to Japan. Restaurants. I think one of the things to remember about, I mean, so many restaurants in Tokyo, and I would probably say I've had more amazing meals in Tokyo than at any other place on earth. But one thing to think about is we're used in Europe to restaurants are on street level. In Japan, it can be underground, it can be 8 floors up in the building. It's just, they're all over the place. So you just have to really take your pick and figure out what you want. It's, if you like a place, I've always found, I've been to great restaurants, I can never remember where they were. So it's really good to take visiting cards from them. And then to write also on, because they're all in Japanese, to write which restaurant it was so you can match your visiting card to the restaurant in your memory. Tip as well, a lot of places, I mean, food there can be, you can eat quite cheaply. Whereas I would say hotels in Tokyo are quite expensive. Eating out doesn't have to be expensive. If you're eating noodles and ramen, stuff like that, it's quite cheap because a lot of business people eat in restaurants all the time. But one thing is, even if the menus are in Japanese, they have 2 things. They either have pictures everywhere, so you can just pick the window, or a uniquely Japanese thing as I know is they have plastic models of all the dishes. So this is what this is. These are just like made out of plastic. They're really detailed. And the restaurants would just have everything there. You can actually see the models. So I've not seen that anywhere else. But food is amazing. So again, just did a photo, a page of just food. I mean, just all the different types of dishes. I mean, it's everything from the gyoza with dumplings to the sashimi to the beef stews and the soups and the drinks. It's just like there's so much to choose from. So then Kyoto is I mean, first time it's completely different. So even if you only had a week splitting between Tokyo and Kyoto, it just gives you such a contrast. Kyoto is about 500 kilometers away from Tokyo, but by train it takes you 2 hours. So I've done day trips to Kyoto from Tokyo. It's the old imperial city. It was the imperial capital for over 1,000 years. It's also, it feels quite small after Tokyo, but it's actually 1.5 million people. So it's not a small town, but it feels easily enough. There's a central part. It's quite easy to, so I put there's this beautiful path called the Philosopher Path. Whenever I've been there, it's been very empty. I've been told it can get very busy in season, but I've not had that. It's also a very good city to cycle around. There's a subway network, but it doesn't get you into the hills. And a lot of the temples are in the hills. So as long as you're willing to cycle uphill, a bicycle is a really good way to get around. Temples. I mean, it's just, although Tokyo has a few good temples, it's just the temples in Kyoto are just amazing. There's so many of them. They're all very, very different. It's just figure out a few to go to, because obviously you can do too many in one go, but I've just listed some of my favorites. Down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's this one which has got these, they're Shinto gates, these orange gates, and literally it's on the whole mountain top. I don't know how many thousands there are, but you can walk up through the mountain, walking through this orange passageway all the way to the top. There are a few which have got really, really good Zen gardens. So they do it out of gravel and small stones. And initially I thought it was quite a weird idea, but actually really beautiful when you look at them, very relaxing. Top right and left hand corner is one of 1,000 Buddhas. There's another fantastic thing. You're walking there, it's just a whole room full of sculptures. And that was the first one that I went to. So the one thing I put as a tip, the most famous temple is a thing called the Golden Temple, the Golden Pavilion. My view is don't go there, because everybody goes there. So if you want to stand in a crowd, you're not allowed to go inside. You're only allowed to walk along one path outside it. It's one of those things, let everybody else go there. There are so many other better temples to go to. So that was my tip on things not to do. A beautiful part of Kyoto where I went to last time in late autumn is Arashiyama. And it's just, I don't know if these are some of my own photos, so it just hopefully captures the autumn colors there. So while Japan is famous for its cherry blossoms in spring, it also is actually famous for its autumn colors. So in Arashiyama, there are temples, there's this fantastic at the top bamboo forest, and there is beautiful gardens which belongs to the 1920s, 30s, film actor called Okoshi Sansa, and it's where most of these photos came from. It's just a really, really beautiful part of town, very relaxing. It allows you to get into the countryside, but still being in Tokyo. Another thing that's interesting in Kyoto is you can actually visit the Imperial Palaces. I think there are 4 or 5 of them. I've been to 2. You have to book it in advance. It's only open on certain days. But one of the most famous ones is this one called the Katsura Imperial Villa, which is where I did these photos. So this is when the imperial family is not staying there, you can go and visit on a guided tour. And it's just an iconic Japanese building. If you want to see what the houses look like with all the sort of movable walls and things, it's a beautiful place. So that's really worth doing in Kyoto, but you have to plan it in advance. A good day trip from Kyoto is a place called Nara, which is the capital even before Kyoto, so over 1,000 years ago. And you can do it as a day trip. One of this building in the top left-hand corner is meant to be the biggest wooden building in the world. And inside it has this huge 16-meter bronze Buddha statue. So when that photo doesn't really give you the scale, it's just absolutely huge. And around Nara, there are all these forests where there are lots and lots of deers wandering around. So Nara is a really good day trip from Kyoto. And the other thing is there's another trip if you want to go into countryside between Tokyo and Kyoto. You have actually, Japan has a lot of mountains, but we rented a car just for a few days and drove around in the mountains. And there are these old villages with very traditional villages and towns. And you can go hiking in the mountains as well. And driving in Japan is actually quite easy as long as you remember they drive on the left. But obviously, being a British person, for me, that was quite easy. But the roads are excellent. And I found just getting anywhere was easy enough. And that was it. So arigato, that's in Japanese. Arigato gozaimasu. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. If anyone is having a question, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. I want to ask you something.
Okay.
I heard, I watched a video a long time ago. I saw that I can put on a stick a wish and throw it in a hole and ring a bell. Can I do it everywhere in the temple, or is there a specific one where I can do that?
You can do that at most of the Shinto temples. So it's part of the thing. There are 2 things which you can do. At a lot of the Shinto temples, they have like a little temple shop where you can buy either wooden boards, which you can like write a wish on or hang on a tree, or there are these things where you can buy a wish and then you see what the wish is and then you throw it, as you said, in there. And they also have, so there's a couple of different things, but most of the Shinto temples, you can do that.
Okay, thank you. after seeing your photos, I'm now sure that I will not stay hungry, because I was afraid that the Japan kitchen is very elegant and I will stay hungry because it's very small in a dish. And now I saw that it's enough for us.
No, it's obviously if you're having sushi, and in a really good sushi restaurant, what they do is they will just bring you, let's say, one type. So you'll have your salmon nigiri and they'll bring one piece, but they're constantly bringing new ones. But the reason why they do it in very small portions is because they believe it has to be incredibly fresh. But if, let's say, if you're having ramen and udon, or they have like fried chicken karaage, it can be huge portions. So I think it's not a problem.
And with the language, I can speak English. It's okay. Everyone is speaking.
There in Tokyo, I would say you'll always find people who speak English. They're incredible. I mean, the good thing is the Japanese are incredibly patient.
Okay.
And so even though their English isn't the best, I have never, ever found a problem with communicating. Sometimes I've been, let's say, shops where the lady has brought out in English, someone has produced something for us. She just like points to things and it has the word. So although she didn't speak English, she could say what the different types of product were and things like this. So they're very, very good on customer service. I've never found a problem, even though the English isn't the best.
That's okay. Anyone else? Questions?
I have a question. Thank you very much, Marek. It was so exciting. Yeah, I seen that you had a lot of passion for Japan, and it touched me a lot. The question is about people. Did you have the possibility to be around the Japanese people a lot, or how it was? In which year you've been there?
I mean, because I've been there a lot on business. So when I've been on business, of course, I've always been with Japanese people. In a way, that's been the nice thing when you go there to work, is that you end up being taken out by Japanese people to restaurants and things like that. So yeah, so I spend quite a bit of time with Japanese people, but I find that they're great. They're incredibly polite. I mean, the whole business culture is a different, separate subject, but no, the quality of service is just amazing. So I've really enjoyed it, and the people are really good. One thing to remember, never ever get annoyed, because they get stressed out if you start showing that you're annoyed. Always be patient. Because they're patient. Always be patient yourself.
What happens when you get annoyed?
They get very stressed, and because there's this whole thing, obviously, again, part of the culture is not about losing face. So if you get annoyed, they feel they've done something wrong, and then they feel very guilty. But what often happens is then they get very sort of close up. So it's just always to be very, very calm and take your time. But the service is excellent, and they really so it's a great, like a lot of, I suppose, a lot of the Far East, you get very, very good service. The people are nice.
Yeah, is it the difference between, so you've been a lot with the business people there? Is there the difference how the people communicate in business and how they are in the private life?
Not really. And again, because I have also traveled around separately from the business, I think it's not that different. Private life, the only thing you can really get, well, there's a few people I know quite well now. So sometimes go out and even though I'm not working with them now, I'll go out for dinner with them. So I say privately, what is a big change? Let's say if they go out, they can be very, very quiet and official at work. But when they go out and party, the Japanese do like to party. And when they party, you start to see people who you think are very quiet change completely.
Interesting. I have another question. I never been in Japan, and maybe 2 years ago, I even didn't have some clue what is about Japan, Japanese culture, the people, nothing at all. Mm-hmm. So, and just seen something, just only a little bit, something of it. So, and then I had the possibility to connect with the Japanese people. And then I really understood, not so long time, but I really understood what does it mean to be polite. You know, it's like incredible. You just feel it in something, wow, amazing. So, but for me, it came some question also. I thought, so they are really, really polite and they don't tell in an open way what is in their heart, if they are angry or not angry. And I thought from the psychological way, you know, if you hide these emotions like anger and all the things, you know, so it makes your psycho, it's not so good for your psycho, and it will not be, the person will not be that kind of polite. So, and I question it, how it can be from one side that polite, and from other side not be able, or in a culture it is like this, that they don't express what they are inside, these bad feelings.
Right.
Do you have some idea how it happens?
Yeah, I mean, one of the curious things on the business side is they're very, very hierarchical and very polite at work, but also sometimes you start noticing the body language which they have, which works a bit differently, but there is a way they communicate. But what they also do is they, every so often, let's say at work, they go out for a team dinner. And what they have is at a team dinner, people can say whatever they want. So the politeness goes out the window. You can actually go to your boss and tell him you don't like him, right? But because it was said at team dinner, when you go back to work next day, it doesn't matter. They switch it off as if you never said it. And so they let off steam at these parties. I mean, it's what was so strange to me. They let off steam when they go out drinking, and then they go back to being very polite and correct the next day. So it is a different way of working, but they are, I think it's just also they're brought up that in many ways, just that way. And they're very different. Let's say when I've been to China, I've often traveled between China and Japan. The Chinese are very, very different. They're much more direct. So completely different culture. But I think, yes, it does cause stress for them as well, I'm sure.
Wow, interesting. Thank you.
But again, I have the same thing. I knew nothing about Japan when I first went out there, which was about 10 years ago. And I've gone there pretty much every year since, until COVID. So the last time I was there was one of the last places I traveled to. It was in November 2019.
How is the weather there? Is this like autumn and spring? And how is it? So 3,000 kilometers from the top and the bottom. And how is the weather?
It varies completely. So although I've always been in that central part, let's say if you go down to Okinawa, which is in the south, it's meant to be tropical. Whereas if you go to Hokkaido in the north, it really is quite Arctic. But I was saying that central island, it's a little bit European since they have a winter. It can be very cold, and in the mountains it will snow. In summer it can be quite humid, although when I've been there in summer, I found it bearably humid. It's not, let's say if I compared it to being in India in summer, that's unbearably humid. Whereas in Tokyo, it's fine. But the nicest times undoubtedly in that central part are spring and autumn. But I would also say it is an all-year-round destination. So you can go there at any time of year and find the right region, and B, even in Tokyo, I've been there all times of year. Sometimes it's just a question of luck. So when the first time I went to Kyoto, it was in January. It was a beautiful day while it was sunny, and I was on a bike. But when the sun went down, I remember my hands froze to my bike handles, because it just got the temperatures dropped so much once the sun had gone down. But it's an all-year-round destination, I would say.
Crazy. I had the opinion that the people are very small because the Asian people, you know. So, but I've seen that actually how they are, the Chinese people. Are they tall, most of the people? Because I've seen that there are also a lot of tall people. So in comparison, there's like 50-50 tall and small, or this is, what do you think?
Probably a bit smaller, but I think it's like with a lot of places in the world, if you look at older people will be very small. But once you get to the younger generations, they're taller, and it's partly because the diet has changed. I mean, older people obviously would have had probably much poorer diets when they were growing up. So I would say traditionally, yes, they're small, and there's probably still a little bit shorter than we would see here in Europe. But you definitely see that younger people are getting taller and taller. And you certainly don't feel as if you're a huge height difference.
Mm-hmm.
The bigger thing is you see very, very few fat people.
Fat?
Hardly anybody.
It's surprising.
Because the diet, although they have great food, the diet is quite healthy and not very, has a relatively low meat content, although they do eat meat, but they just have quite a healthy diet.
Okay. Anyone else? Once again, thank you, Marek.
Yeah.
We are moving to our second part. Because we are already, how to say, similar faces and we know each other, I would say that this time we will add 2 more questions. How was your day? How are you feeling? And introduce yourself and tell us why you joined on this meeting. I will start to show how it could be. I am feeling clear and clean. I make everything clean here. My day was great. I had a good time and I'm very excited to see you again. Now I am introducing myself. For those who don't know me, I'm Suzan Umerova. I am Turkish and I was born and grew up in Bulgaria. Almost 12 years living in Berlin, Germany. The reason that I started this group because I love people, I love being creative, I love nature, and I love meeting people. And because we could not do it in this time, this was the best decision that I take to start this community. Todor, could you continue with introducing yourself to tell us how was your day? How are you feeling?
Hi, first of all, thanks Marek for the nice presentation. Yeah, so my day was good. Usual Saturday, just went for some shopping. Yeah, very easy. Have met with another friend online. Yeah, so just in time, finished just in time to join this meeting. Why I joined it? Because I like to hear about travel destinations. Yeah, I like to learn about other places, other cultures, and Japan is actually one of the, let's say, top destinations I am planning to visit in the future when it's gonna be possible. So yeah, it was a very nice presentation. Thanks again.
Okay.
Thank you, Tudor. Ronald?
Thank you very much, Marek, for this very interesting presentation. I've been once to Japan, so but just 1 week, so I'm not an experienced Japan goer, and I've always planned to go back. So this is also one of the reasons why I joined today, I try to arrange my day. So I usually on Saturday I have things to do, so it's not always easy to join. But I saw, oh, Japan, I must be there and see it, and well, all your stories and pictures really have confirmed to me I must go back one day. I plan to go to the mountains, by the way. I already collected a little bit of literature on it, and it seems to be, I think you had 1 or 2 pictures, but I wasn't sure, but it seems to be amazing.
No, the mountains are really, really beautiful. And again, it's so different from being in the cities because you realize how empty. I mean, they're huge mountains, very, very green, and there are some beautiful villages up there. So I highly recommend it.
Thanks. Oh, thanks again. Yeah, so my day was also a little bit of nature. I was out hiking in the southwest around Schlachtensee. Most of you probably know it. Had a coffee with a friend and then came back just on time to do some washing, some cleaning, some cooking. This is why I had to quickly run away. I don't know if you noticed, I had to run away to stop the cooking. And yes, I love traveling, although I haven't traveled now since a year, but this is why I come back. I always see the nice and interesting stories of you all. So thanks again, and hope to see you soon again after today.
Oksana, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. My day was nice. I chat quite a lot of time with a friend of mine from Bali, and it was interesting to feel my emotions about it. So my thoughts is to go to live there a couple of years, like 1-2 years, you know, for the next time. But I still didn't move there. So I thought like maybe end of the year or something, not maybe, but it will be something like this, like end of the year, I start already go to this direction. So I chat with a friend and just ask him, by the way, like, okay, how does it looks with the visa? Do you have some possibilities? Do you have some connections that are possible to do? And he said like, yeah, because he's from London, also from England. So, and he said, yeah, we are now 5 people. He lives in Bali quite a long time. And he said, yeah, we are now 5 people, some group, and there's possibility we can do that kind of business visa. So if you want, I will check if there's some spot for it. I can put you there, and there is possibility to get the visa already start from June or July. And me, like, I felt like, oh no, it's too quick. I wanted it in September, October, something like this. And it was for me, so like, to understand my wish, it's like really hard. But then when the possibility is there, the wish is very hard and very big. And then there is comfort zone also. Here is comfortable and I know everything and whatever. And then the possibility is there. And I understood how the fear came in, and how I started to struggle with it, what wasn't before 2 years ago when I was traveling. It was a lot of insecurity, and it was easy going to jump and to do the things. So this is about my feeling today. So, and about my presentation about myself, so everybody knows me and my story, and it's very interesting because I thought also, yeah, okay, we will do the presentation, but actually everybody knows me already. So what do I have to say something new? What can I say something new? So I was very surprised and gladly surprised that Suzanne came with this idea that we can mix it up. So that's why. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I can give you a tip: decide, and fear goes. Take decision if you want to go to Bali.
What can you please one more time?
I can give you a tip if you want to take it. Take a decision that will change, and the fear will go. You will attract everything you want.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Rashmi?
Hello, this is my second time here. So yeah, it was very nice the last time. So, and I saw the notification today and it was Japan. So it was very interesting and I joined. About me, I'm in Berlin since 2 years. I'm from India. And my day was good. I was looking forward to the weekend because my week was quite busy at my work. So I was really looking forward to it. Yeah, it was a regular Saturday. I went for jogging and cooking and calling family and so on. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Who is Susanne?
Yes, hello. My day was also quite good today, and Marek, the presentation was really great and very informative. I don't know very much about Japan, and for me it was always a country where I thought I would not go too early, that there are many more countries that are more interesting for me. But I think what you showed us from Tokyo, it was so interesting. All these different small kiezes, and there was so much information that I think if you really go there, you have to take maybe a good travel book and to look up everything where you would like to go. Yeah, and yes, concerning my day today, yes, the weather was quite nice in Munich. So in the morning, I was also cleaning as you, Susan. And then, yes, I went to the English garden because it's always so nice to stay there and to walk a little bit. Yeah, and then I came back just for the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you. We are moving to our last part, and this is about sharing a past or future destination and speak about it. I will start again. Today I will speak about one past travel destination, and it is Lana. It was 1 year ago during the Corona time. My son was in Bulgaria, and I decided that I will use the time, and it was a spontan, and I took the train and went. Also, I took my tent and go to a camping platz in Lana. It is next to Meran, and I spent there about 5 days in the nature under the stars. What I did, I rent a bike, went to Meran. There is a huge, the garden of the Trutano and the Kaiser Sisi. It was amazing. Also, you can go with the lift to the top to the mountain. What I did sales, in the camping place, there was a swimming pool. Also, I enjoyed the time there. What surprising thing, one surprising thing for me was, for those who knows me, I do love to eat chocolate, ice cream, and apples. And when I arrived there, I saw a huge green apples everywhere. I say, I am in paradise. Everywhere green apples. That was a bit surprise for me because I didn't know that. I really had a good time, read a lot of books, and it was a good time for me. Thank you for me, and I'm going with Tudor. One past destination or one future? What is exciting, or you can private or not?
Maybe one past destination that I could recommend people. It's probably very easy to reach. It's in Europe. It's in France. So one place that I've been a few times and I always like to go back. So it's on the Loire Valley. So it's somewhere a bit south from Paris. So I recommend going to the city called Tours. It's probably like 200 kilometers down from Paris. And then from there, it's very useful to have a car. You can go left and right. There are like a lot of castles that you can visit. Some of them, they've been like, luxurious palaces, and some of them, they look more like fortresses. So I think it's a very nice area. I can recommend any time starting from late April, May, until maybe September, October, when the weather is nice. There are a lot of places to go. The food is great in France. There are a lot of wineries if you're into wine. So I think it's a place where you can find a lot of things to do. And also, like, there are rivers, for example, for the Loire, you can maybe rent some kayaks in some places and so on, if you like water sports. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Rashmi?
Yeah, for me, one of my previous destination was Dubai. It was my first solo trip, and it is not very different culturally. It is similar to India, but I really enjoyed that. I was by myself the first time, and it is quite touristy, but also very nice. I did a lot of adventures there, like hot air balloon and skydiving, etc. So it was very interesting and very memorable experience for me.
Thank you. Susanne? Yes, I think I would like to talk again about my very next trip to France, and this should be in end of May, and I think it won't be possible because now France is high risk area, and I just read everything. Some La Moselle, for example, is closed, and I have heard from a friend of mine that she can only go for about 10 kilometers, that she cannot leave her region. And yeah, I think probably it will be too dangerous. Yeah. And then if you have to come back, you have, yeah, as you said, Ronald, you have to get a negative corona test, and then I think you still have to go into quarantine if you're back in Germany, and I think that's too much. So probably it's not possible to go there.
Did you already book?
Yes, but I can cancel. So I have 10 more days to think, and then I can cancel, or 2 weeks to think. And but as the situation is now, and we even don't know what's going to be in Germany, because they're going to maybe to close up everything. So I don't know really. Yeah. And just about Corona, I thought it was quite a good idea that every Bundesland makes its own regulations, because the people there do what's the best for their region. And now for me, it's not so good that the Bundesrepublik makes everything equal, even if it's maybe not so good for several states. For example, in the north, they don't have many corona illness, and in the south or in Turingen it's very much so. I'm more or less in favor of opening very, very slowly, and because we cannot go on all the time with those closed business everywhere. So maybe if we all have our vaccination, maybe it's changing a bit, but I think we have to live with the virus for a long time.
The only thing we can do is pray to finish everything faster, I think, for every one of us. Thank you, Susanne, for sharing your thoughts with us and your ideas. Ronald?
Well, what I can tell you today is about the Elbe Sandsteingebirge. It's kind of a smaller mountain range, which is in Saxony, to the south of Dresden, right on the border to the Czech Republic. And it's actually very easy to reach from Berlin, because there's a direct train. Well, actually, it's a train to Prague. So I don't know if they're still going right now, but it may also be difficult to visit right now. But it's just 2.5 hours by train. And you stop in a little village, and there's this, the train stops there because it's the last village before the border. It's called Bad Schandau, where you can get off, and you can also spend the night there. There are small places to spend the night, and from there you can do lots of excursions, or you actually can hike around, because there's also a hiking route which is called the Malerweg from Peter. It's called that because it's like so picturesque. So it's so beautiful. The route, it's a route of several days, and you pass through the little mountains. They're so spectacular because they're kind of like they're pinnacles, rock pinnacles that are like 200. Suddenly, you know, in the countryside, and suddenly there's a rock pinnacle 200 meters high, or in the forest even. And these rock pinnacles, they on some of them they have built castles. So there's a famous castle called the Königstein, which is really amazing. It's built on top, but they have built into the also into the rock, and so this is still like it's a kind of a small village on top of the rock with the whole castle, and it's amazing to visit. You can spend half a day there. But there are also some castles which are completely in the forest, which have been like recaptured by nature. So it's kind of amazing just to walk around in the forest and then discover these castles like that. And also there's the Elbe Valley. Elbe is a river, a German river, and which passes also through Dresden. And so some of these pinnacles are along the river, and you can have a really beautiful view along through the valley. Yes, so just
Thank you.
very short. Oh yeah, and what I wanted to say was, if you like camping, because you were speaking about having taken your tent, you have also lots of natural caves, and you can like sleep on a ledge, which is kind of like a cave, and then in the park. And officially it's not allowed, but a lot of people do it. And then you wake up in the morning and there's a nice sunshine, and you have a view over the forest, and it's really beautiful.
Okay.
So, just a small tip.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always curious to see new places. Thank you for the tip. Marek, if you want, you can skip, or you because you spoke today already. If you want, you can share. You can decide.
Okay, I mean, I can just do a very quick one because we can't travel far away. I'll just mention a cycling trip I did last Friday, not this Friday, the Friday before, near Berlin, and it's a place I've never been to before. So I took a train out, which is a train going east to Kostrin, and got out of a station called Alt Rosenthal, and then cycled 40 kilometers along the Elbe down to along the Oder, down to Frankfurt and Oder. And one of the reasons why I did this is a friend recommended, because there are these yellow, very rare wild yellow flowers called Adonis Rustian, which bloom in only in two places there, and they only bloom in April on a sunny day. And so I was quite lucky. It was a sunny day and it was April, so I saw these wild flowers, and lots of people go there to see these wild flowers in these two places. But it's also just a beautiful cycling route, and just actually a very nice area, if anyone, for people in Berlin, to go out towards the Oder and the Oder Valley. And so if we can't travel far away, that's at least somewhere we can still go.
Great idea. Thank you. Aksamo?
Can you, Marek, please write the name of this trail? Well, of this book?
I'll just put it in the chat.
Yeah, that will be cool. Yeah, my recommendation is, I just discovered it a couple of weeks ago. So I go to the physiotherapist in Pankow, and one day he wasn't there, or I just wanted to have a look at the park somewhere, to have a walk at the park. So I discovered the park. It's in Niederschönhausen, and the park name is Orangerie Park. So this is the Schlossgarten Schönhausen. Very beautiful park. And I know it was the first time. I'm quite a long time in Berlin. I live a long time in Berlin, but I never been there. So I discovered that there is some small canal there, so a lot of trees, and beautiful paths to walk in, and I found it's really amazing.
What is the name of the park?
So I tell you, it's.
Type it in the chat also.
Yeah, I will write it in the chat. Orangerie Park, Schlossgarten Schönhausen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are done for today. We are coming to the last part, and this is one sentence feedback. because I love creation and co-creation. I'm thinking about to implement breakout sessions. 2-3 groups with like a homework for anyone, which topic, which should be questions, think about it and let me know what it could be, to have more fun, more interaction with each other. That is my wish, that we are getting better and moving together with this community. And thank you for taking time being here. Rashmi, one sentence feedback.
Yeah, it is very nice. I don't know. I didn't think about anything. It's too quick for me, but
Okay.
yeah. Having different questions like this is very nice, and it makes it interesting. But I haven't thought of a question yet.
Okay. If anyone of you has an idea or questions how we can do these meetings better, please let me know. I'm open for this. Thank you, Rashmi. Susanne?
It was very interesting, and Marek, thank you very much. Really interesting.
Welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Ronald?
For me, again, it was so nice to hear the personal anecdotes in the stories. Of course, interesting about a country, about the statistics and how big it is and how many people live there. But the real dish or the real specialty for me is that the personal anecdotes, they make this so much fun. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Co-creation with all together is the best. Where is now Tudor, please?
Yeah, very nice presentation, great questions, nice chat. Probably a tip to improve to meet in person, but that's not possible for now. So yeah, I think that will definitely improve the kind of conversations, right?
Yes, thank you. Let me see. Oksana?
Yeah, Marek, thank you very much for the presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I really like the way you present, so much passion, and so like I could feel that you really, really like it, So, and even because of this, I started to like it too. Independently of that I really like the culture and the people, Japanese people, and maybe sometime one day I would like to go there, but there is so many travel destinations, so I don't know. But it's really beautiful, and all these blossom trees, which is now also in Berlin, I don't know. So it was amazing. So thank you very much for this. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot because it was the new proposal of Susan. So it makes the meeting more, I feel more life in it if there is something new, So that's why it's a cool thing, because now, so Susanna said that it's complicated with in Germany, one Bundesland and the other Bundesland, no possibility, a lot of two restrictions. So I think just to bring in some kind of ways, some new things, some exciting things, makes the life better. And so somehow I lose my thoughts. Sorry.
All is well. We love you as you are.
Okay, good. That's it for me. Thank you.
Marek?
I mean, I enjoyed it. Obviously, it was a bit different when one's presenting, but it's actually just quite fun preparing a presentation, because you start thinking, what do I want to say? What do I like? And things like this. So it actually pulls together a lot of your thoughts. So it was fun. And it's always like, yeah, if people find it helpful, that's also great. But no, I enjoyed it. And again, I think it's like other people say, I mean, the ideal thing would be able to meet in person, but until then, it's just great to have some new elements thrown in every so often. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for sharing your feeling and thoughts about it. The last thing that I want to tell for the next week, we have Great Britain. I have personally never ever been there, and we will be speaking about Great Britain. And see you next week at 6 p.m.
Right.
Susanna, I just have one question. Is there already a presentation in 2 weeks or not?
Do you want to do something?
If there would be, yes, because I was thinking the weeks afterwards there are some birthdays, so I don't know if if I have time to prepare or what's on the weekend. But I just thought maybe in 2 weeks, if there is nobody, I could make a presentation about Panama.
Oh, that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for taking this initiative for doing that. We will speak personally to let you know if there is a possibility and when to make it. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
Susan, who do the presentation for the Great Britain?
B.
Who?
B. He did it once. He will do it again because of the Best Travel Stories Awards. As you know, everyone, because our community is getting better and growing, we are enjoying that, and we are now in our Best Travel Stories Awards 2021, and everyone wins.
All right. Thank you.
See you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.